The first age, the beginning age. At the start of everything was the king. He had no name that could be spoken among men. There was no word that could describe the king from the very beginning. He always was, he always would be. And he was there. He lived in his courts separate apart from the world that he created, what would now become Canna Lodane in the present age. But in the beginning age, it was the courts in the new world that he created. There are many ideas for the creation in the beginning age, and it's accepted by most that this is simply the best story that caught on. There's no record of people who lived during this time. It was all inspired by the king through his prophets and future leaders of nations that were loyal to him. So most of this idea in this starting age was the part of man that is one with the divine. We know innately what the idea of our existence comes from. Each person who lives and inhabits Canna Lodane knows within themselves where they came from, what they were supposed to do. And everyone has a slightly different idea of what that looks like. But that's not a bad thing. It was never a point of contention. Although gods could vary, kings could vary, leaders could vary. The ultimate idea was that something marvelous happened in the very beginning age. This version is the one accepted by the Amnon, the people most loyal and beloved by the king since the beginning age. In the very beginning, during the creation of Canna Lodane, the king had an elite right-hand man in general and friend. That was what made his downfall so devastating. This general's name was Luce, and he was perfect. He surpassed all combat, music, appearance, talent, and the like. He was there with the king at the beginning when everything was set into motion. The king set into motion the world before them, and one of the most beautiful passages from this lore and mythology and legend is that on the void and darkness, at the very beginning, the flame of the king hovered over the waters. The flame is the spirit of the king that moves and transcends all things. Again, this looks very different depending on whose lore is said to be the one in question or following, but all agree that the flame hovered over this void and this darkness at the very beginning that set things in motion. As he created everything, as he set it into motion, the world was filled with all things that now exist at present: the mountains, the oceans, the rivers, the valleys. The mighty beasts of legend, the leviathans, the behemoths, the amoebozoos, the griffins, all down to the very, very small, the amoebas, the slugs, the snails, the fish. Everything was set into motion. The crowning achievement of the king's creation was the Garden of Infinity, the paradise of his courts on this new world that he had made, with the tree of infinity in the heart. This was what was intended. And the lore says that in this garden were the first men, their leader going by the name Man. And then the king decided that it was not good that the first men were alone. And so he brought to them the first women, the chief of which, the priestess, the queen, if you will, went by woman. And it was through them that all things would continue. She was made from one of the ribs of man, so that the first man, who was the steward of the first men, was missing one rib. The woman was crafted by the king to guide him, to love him, to make sure that he was a good steward, and vice versa. The man was to make sure that the first woman was also a good steward to love and care for, and create the world that Canna Lodane should be. The paradise in which all would share, no matter how different, no matter who believed which myth, legend, or lore. It would be a paradise. Sadly, this would not continue. This was just the beginning, before selfishness, greed, murder, but that was about to change.